Hello everyone, I'm really excited to be a part of this conference, even though I can't be there in person. My name is Christine Abernathy and I lead the Open Source Program Office at F5. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Now, did you know that you can have a successful open source career, not just in software development, but as a user interface designer, a technical writer, a community manager, a lawyer, a product manager, a developer advocate? The list goes on and on. Now, in this talk, I'll give you a glimpse into several open source personas to broaden your view into what an open source career could look like and show you how you can grow in those roles. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Kenya. I went to the US where I studied electrical engineering. I moved to the Silicon Valley because, why not? I started my career as a hardware design engineer and later started a company with a few friends where I was able to work on a few startups before I ended up at Facebook. Now, it's at Facebook where I got involved more with open source, and I spent the majority of my 10 years focused in that area. There I was able to support many open source projects. I got to travel around the world and I met many open source communities. I recently joined F5 to lead their open source efforts. Now, what F5 does is they actually build products and services to make sure that apps are fast, available, and secure across any on-premise or multi-cloud environment. Customers include large banks, retailers, and government agencies. And some F5 products are Big IP, Nginx, and the recently announced F5 distributed cloud services. Open source is important to F5 and it was a privilege to join them to help drive these efforts. Beyond F5, many organizations are realizing the same value of open source, so you are in good company. Which brings us to the Open Source Festival and to today. I'm looking forward to sharing the career opportunities that I have seen along the way as part of my open source journey. Like any successful product, an open source project needs developers, UX designers, community managers, developer advocates, technical writers, legal, marketing, comms, and even someone who looks at the data. When the project is small, one person may play all of these roles. At times, I've played this role and I've seen others also play this role. But there are also standalone career choices in the industry. I'm going to walk through some of these personas, describing what they are and the ways that you can get started in them to level up your skills. Starting with the most obvious one, software developer. Typically, a developer gets involved in open source to improve their coding skills or to learn relevant skills. You will no doubt listen to other talks during this conference that talk about how you can get started as a open source contributor. So I'm not going to jump into that or talk about that. I remember a software engineer at Facebook talking about how his career started with a simple typo fix to an open source project. It was a momentous occasion for him that gave him confidence and propelled his career growth. He exemplified many great traits that I have seen in those that live and breathe open source. He works on tough problems. He contributes a lot to open source. He is always looking to mentor others and he deeply cares about diversity. So one piece of advice that I can give you is this. Getting a job at many companies, big companies, is more than being a brilliant open source coder. There are soft skills such as how you are as a team player, how you lead, how you resolve conflicts. These are skills that you can build in open source by going above and beyond coding. Try your hand at being a project maintainer. Mentor someone new. Build your communication skills by giving talks at conferences like this one. Write blogs to share and to promote your work. These are the types of things that you should consider doing to take your software development career to the next level. Many of the things that I mentioned a software developer could do to increase their employability are embodied in the character of a community manager. I met a few community managers along the way. A community manager usually brings together people to increase engagement, say around an open source project. I worked with a community manager on an initiative to increase accessibility in a React Native as part of a pledge that team had taken on. This particular community manager, they rallied the community together, they managed related issues, they worked with engineers to unblock contributors, they celebrated community wins, and they wrote blogs to report on status. I've seen other community managers stand up support channels on Slack, on Discord, and other places to build community and to increase knowledge and adoption in tech, like say Web3, or projects like Nginx. Now, if you don't consider yourself a software developer, but you want to be involved in tech, if you find energy in organizing people and events around an area of interest, then this could be the career for you. You don't have to be an expert in that field. You just need to be passionate about it and to be good at growing communities. So consider joining developer groups that you find out there. For example, Mozilla Community Group, Google Developers Group, or Meta Developer Circles. You want to volunteer to be a lead in one for your area, or just start your own community if you see a need. That is what the folks who organize this conference on Run the OSCAR Discord have done successfully. Leading these communities is a way to get noticed when you look for that job. I know at least 3 people who have gotten offers at big companies where a key factor was their community leadership. Another crucial and often overlooked role is that of a technical writer. You could have 2 projects that are equally sound technically, and one will gain more adoption because they just have better docs. The number one improvement that developers typically list in surveys is that they want better docs. I've seen this both internally and in external surveys. Now, good technical writers have a good grasp of technology, but they are also really passionate about education and explaining things simply. They're able to take complex topics and break it down in a way that people can understand. It's definitely a skill. So if bad documentation really gets to you, if you like to code but care more about making others understand the bigger picture, if you want to save the world, just kidding, well, not really. But consider a career as a technical writer. Open source can help you get started there. You can get started by fixing a typo in an open source project or writing a tutorial based on using an open source project. If a project doesn't have translation in a language that you know, why not translate it? A Facebook Developer Circle lead told me how he organized the translation of React docs into Arabic. He proudly described how that helped him level up the community, and this did not go unnoticed by the React team. There are many places where you can get started learning how to write good docs. There's a community called Write the Docs that you can join to get support and to learn more. Developer advocates, sometimes known as technical evangelists, is a persona that I know well, having lived it out for a while. If you're this person, then you generally like to write code, but not all the time. You like to write technical docs, but not always. You may enjoy giving talks to share your learnings with the community. You know how to explain complex topics to different types of audiences. You want to be that bridge. The common thread here is that you have a passion for technology and an empathy for developers. You want to do your best to eliminate any roadblocks so that everyone is successful. The path to being a developer advocate can take many forms. In my case, I went from basically a software engineer to working with bigger clients to wanting to help the larger community. After getting over a deep fear of public speaking by just doing it, writing lots of tutorials, starting communities to promote various products, I learned that what I was doing was called developer advocacy. A different path to becoming a developer advocate was taken by Emmanuel, who was a lead for Facebook Developer Circles Lagos. He took his passion for community building and merged that with his love for tech. I heard from Emmanuel earlier this year when he said that he had finally landed his dream role as a developer advocate after working so hard at this. I was really happy for him. Developer advocacy is hot right now, and many companies built around open source are looking for someone to fill this position. Check this career choice out. To get plugged in some more, a good community to join is DevRel Collective, where peer support is provided and some good career opportunities are shared. The last persona I'll discuss is the program manager. The program manager role is typically a position found inside of organizations. The open source program manager may work on one or more initiatives around open source. For example, they may coordinate engineering work internally to help project adoption externally. So, do you hate inefficiencies and like to organize things? How about organizing people? Do you like to start and scale initiatives? Are you good at working across multiple teams and getting things done? Then a program manager role could be a great fit for you. There is one way that you could practice open source program management outside of a company. If you're a student, start an open source programs office or OSPO in your university. An OSPO focuses open source efforts in one place to reduce inefficiencies and increase engagement. You know what? Companies have found that this helps them build better open source practices and build better engineering culture, to name just a few benefits. OSPOs have started popping up in universities, so starting one in your university could bring visibility into the program manager role. There are a few blueprints that can help you start an OSPO. Check out the To-Do group or OSPO++ for a supportive community that can help you out. I have certainly benefited from their network over the years and in my new role at F5. There are many aspects of open source that I love. I have seen it be a game changer at companies to help build culture, a positive brand, and to give developers, program managers, tech writers, developer advocates, and many others a chance to shine. You may have spotted a common thread in my talk. Community, learning in community, finding your place in community, growing with the community. As I spoke about the different careers, many of the roles blended with each other. A successful open source developer works well in the community. A community manager knows how to motivate developers. A technical writer understands the developer mindset well enough to educate the community. Find your niche in the community, in the open source community, something that plays to your strength and to your passions. I hope this talk gave you a better idea on how exactly to do that. If you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter, or you can actually even reach out to me on the Discord chat. I hope you enjoy the rest of Open Source Festival. Thank you.